Hi, I'm Frank Masiosi, and I'm here with my good friend Jordan Glatt.
Good seeing you, Frank.
Good seeing you. And I'll ask each of the three candidates running for election or re-election to introduce themselves. Delia, you first.
Sure. Hi, Frank. Jordan, Delia Hamlet. I'm running for re-election for Ward 1.
Hi, thanks for having us today. I'm Tom Zieber. I'm running for Common Council in Ward 2.
Frank and Jordan, thank you very much for hosting us again. Kevin Smallwood, running for re-election at large.
Okay. So with that, the rules. We will take turns asking questions from a list that both of us have agreed on, alternating among candidates. You are free to elaborate on your running mate's responses. There is no time limit, but we encourage you to be succinct because overall time will be limited to 30 or 40 minutes. If we feel that you are taking too much time answering one question, we will ask you to wrap it up. The objective is for voters to get to know you. The show will be aired without being edited for content after the candidates of both parties have been interviewed. Disparaging comments about opponents will not be allowed. So with that, Jordan, would you like to kick it off with the first question?
Sure. Before we begin, I just really want to thank you all for serving and raising your hand to serve. It is probably the best and the most taxing volunteer job in Summit, and I just wanted to thank you all for serving.
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Delia, what do you think the biggest issue facing Summit today is?
I think overdevelopment continues to be the thing that concerns me the most. As you know, we just completed our housing element and fair share plan. The good news is we did receive immunity in round 3. So I think a lot of the residents who fought back on Broad Street West can feel confident that it was the right thing to do. Right now, we are getting ready to sell that property. Hopefully we'll do that before the new year. But the 4th round of affordable housing is still looming ahead of us. So we had put one development in our plan that was unanimously agreed over several months through all of the council members, which is on Broad and Ashwood. There were several projects we rejected. One was an 8-story building across from the new firehouse. There was another one that was too dense across from the municipal golf course. So we've done our best at eliminating projects that were completely out of scale and out of character, but I think overdevelopment is really the number one. The number 2, I would say, state health benefit plan is the number 2, the rising costs of the state health benefit plan.
No, I would just echo what Delia had just mentioned is, overdevelopment and trying to meet our affordable housing obligation does require some development. And unfortunately, Summit is landlocked. We don't have any more land that we can grow. So what we're trying to do is meet the affordable housing obligations as best as we possibly can without creating an overdeveloped community.
I would just, echo what Delia and Kevin are saying, but also I would just add, I think, to me, crime and public safety is always going to be number one in a community because if that's not in good shape, I'm not sure anything else matters. But I think the most topical thing right now is certainly overdevelopment. It has such a nexus with so many other things, our infrastructure, our schools, our roads, our essential services. So, not managing development properly has a lot of consequences. And so I think that's, I'm not sure I want to say one's more important than the other. I think they're both incredibly important. And, but I think that's the one that's in the front of people's minds the most right now.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add to that or no?
Pardon me?
Can I add to that?
Sure.
Obviously, safety is our number 1 priority, so I would certainly agree with that. Luckily, our crime stats are looking really solid. Our police is doing a great job. I would say it's not all bad news on the overdevelopment front. We've been able to do a lot of smaller scale projects. So we've been able to get housing for our house. We just made a committee with a bipartisan group of individuals for veterans housing, so we're hoping to do that. So I think, Summit's always done a great job with affordable housing. We've got the Summit Housing Authority. So I think we've really done a great job at trying to, to get everybody involved in this process.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is for Tom. The city's infrastructure is aging. What areas would you prioritize for attention?
I think the number one priority has to be stormwater management, and I think that some of this is hand in hand, like I kind of alluded to in my last response, with preventing overdevelopment, because Summit is already built out about as much as it can be. And so, I think before you can upgrade infrastructure and solve those problems, you have to make sure that you stop the bleeding. And so I think that the first step is just not developing or not overdeveloping Summit further. We have to develop responsibly. But I think to answer the question directly, I think that's probably the number one area on the infrastructure topic that I think is the most important.
I would agree with Tom. We're fortunate enough that we live on a summit, and water runs downhill. So when we do have flash flooding, it creates, because of the lack of stormwater management that we have now, it does create some flash flooding, but fortunately it does move out quickly, but it damages a lot, has a lot of damage along the way. So I think that's something that we need to really focus on, specifically the Saltbrook. Those homes along Springfield Avenue going towards New Providence really need some help. It's not just one neighbor; it's the entire, Saltbrook going into New Providence. So, we really need to find a way to work with Union County, as well as the state, because unfortunately we just don't have the ability or the capabilities to do it ourselves.
Great.
And can I add to that?
Sure.
I would say, yesterday I spent about half a day at the joint meeting. For those of you who don't know what the joint meeting is, that's really the brains of all of the sewer and wastewater management. It was completely fascinating to watch all of those employees and all of our systems that flow into those systems. And I was incredibly impressed, and it helped me really understand how we can navigate the stormwater management and all of those issues going forward. I serve on the joint meeting, and it really helped me think about it a little differently, especially in regards to the Saltbrook. Luckily, Union County last week approved a resolution to agree to fix the pipe that is broken once we are able to stabilize that bank. But as I think Kevin said, this is not one neighborhood. It stems all the way from Memorial Field. A lot of people are getting flooded, and we just have to take a really close look at all of our infrastructure and make sure that everybody's safe.
So, Kevin, with 564 municipalities in New Jersey, the concept of sharing service has been appealing to many. What opportunities do you see for Summit and shared services?
Well, I think dating back to your time on council as well as Frank's, I think we had started some shared services with our police and fire department with New Providence and Berkeley Heights, as well as Milburn, I believe. And I think the idea is to minimize costs for everyone having those shared services. Unfortunately, 2 of the towns have backed out and decided to go with Union County. So I am all favor of shared services if it's going to be able to provide the quality that we're expecting to deliver to our residents. It would be a nice thing that we could have, because we're spending a lot of money on even our current shared services, because we're a larger municipality than with Milburn. So we're taking the brunt of the cost of that. So if we could bring in other municipalities to have that shared service with us to lower our cost, I would totally be in favor of that, as well as any other shared services that we could lower our costs but maintain the same quality for our residents.
So the next question is for Delia. Summit's municipal debt has risen significantly over the years, and debt service is one of the largest items in the budget. Do you see the current level of municipal debt as a problem? And if so, what would you do to address the problem?
Well, I would reject the question a little bit. And when I say that, we have had fluctuations in our debt levels. There was one year where we did have to bond for the firehouse. That was a significant debt level. We took, under Michael Rogers, we took 2 years, I think it was 22 and 23, or I can't remember off the top of my head, 2 years, where we reduced that debt significantly. And what that did, I guess the flip side of that was we really had to keep our capital budget down during those years. So there were some trade-offs. We were able to reduce our debt, but we had to keep our capital maintenance, capital projects at $2 million. We're seeing the impact of that now with some of our infrastructure failing, and that's why we had to increase our capital budget. and take care of those things. So I think that we have an amazing CFO. We have a former city administrator who's working for the Division of Local Government Services. We have amazing employees who will make sure that we are always AAA bond rated, and I have full confidence in our staff that we always have our eye on the pulse there.
And if I could just add, as being on the finance committee this year with Claire Toth, she did a fabulous job running the finance committee this year, and I really applaud her for doing a great job. Again, it was a committee, and then debt's a funny word because debt isn't necessarily a bad thing. Credit card debt is not that great. However, having the AAA rating that we have, it allows us to borrow money at a much lower rate. At a time when we're also trying to fix infrastructure that hasn't been taken care of or maintained that well over the past 10, 15 years, the longer you wait to maintain those items, such as the roof on the Anderson Fieldhouse last summer. Currently, we're under repair for the tier garage, the top 2 floors. We've got to make sure that our infrastructure, as it ages, we need to maintain and make sure that it's staying up to date, so that we don't have to have large ticket items to put on our debt. So,
Sorry.
Good.
Delia and Kevin both covered a lot of ground there, but I would just, I guess, add that with respect to the city's finances, and I've heard this from both tickets, but we have to prioritize needs over wants, and each ticket probably has a different definition of what that means. But I think the principle is, the premise of that is accurate. That we need to just scrutinize budgets really carefully and make sure that we're always approaching them with affordability and our taxpayers in mind. I think that's how I would approach finances at Summit.
And I would just add that one of the things we recommended to the school board this year was potentially taking some of these larger playground projects that we're paying for, in 1 or 2 years, and using the city as a source to maybe either use a note or however they want to do it, but utilize the city, because these playgrounds and some of these capital projects are being used by residents from now until 20 years from now. So I think we're going to look at that from a city's perspective, as well as we've offered that to the Board of Ed as well, to use us as a tool to do that.
Tom, do you think Summit's police department is adequately staffed?
Well, I think it's getting better. I think that, as you guys know, our council has hired 2 new officers. There's 2 more in the budget. I think that we are addressing the need for more. Personally, I am not opposed to the idea of potentially even adding a few more if we evaluate the need. I think the biggest thing is the best people to answer that question are the people who are on the police force. I know that Kevin and Delia have done this, and I would do this as well on council. Is I would really want to take feedback from our police force often and listen very carefully and make sure that we give them whatever resources they need. Now, if that means additional officers, that's something we have to consider. If that means some other technological upgrade or something else that they feel would help them, be more effective, and they're already tremendously effective. But if there's something they say they need, I think we have to consider it. I think we're working towards adequately staffing the police force, and I'm always going to be, eyes and ears open if we need to add additional officers as well.
Great.
And I would just add that calls for service this year were significantly up. Crime is down. Crime is absolutely down. And so I think it's a good thing that we hired those police officers, and we continue to speak with the chief. And as you said, he'll certainly let us know if he needs more staffing.
Okay. Kevin, the city's court-ordered affordable housing obligation has been a challenge for previous councils. What is your vision of how the city should address this obligation?
Well, yeah, it's tough because obviously we want to be able to meet our affordable housing obligation. The number I feel that was given to the city of Summit this year of 345 is a little bit unrealistic. The formula is complicated. They don't take into consideration the infrastructure, our schools, our roads, our stormwater management. And that's something that every town, it's unique to every single town. And part of the reason why, some of the towns have higher numbers than lower numbers for their affordable housing obligation. I feel like our council has done a tremendous job on finding alternatives to building massive container ship buildings. We've worked with Our House to find affordable housing in that space and being able to keep residents here. It's a tricky subject because you want to be able to help the people that you possibly can, but again, as I mentioned before, we're landlocked. We don't have a lot of vacant land to develop. So what we have to do is really use the land that we have responsibly and work with the developers and hopefully ask they remain responsible as well to work with us.
Did you want to respond?
Just, the requirement is a little bit onerous. Kevin kind of alluded to this a little bit, that the requirement that we build, 4 regular units for every 1 affordable unit, a requirement like that might be appropriate in places that have more open land, but like Kevin touched on, it's been touched on a couple times in this interview, we simply don't have the land to accommodate that. So in some places that might be appropriate, but it's not in Summit. I think, Delia, Kevin, and the rest of council have done a great job of, look, they've taken proposals and evaluated them in good faith, which we need to do, but they've focused on lower density projects, and just navigating the whole dilemma in a way that doesn't expose our city to litigation. And I think that's the approach I would take, and I think they've taken the proper approach so far.
I would add that I've spent probably more time on this week as we're heading into mediation next week with our attorneys, and I think our planner and our counsel provided a legally defensible plan that we can defend. I ran on overdevelopment last time, and I continue to run on it. The reason we excluded the River Road project is it was way too dense. They're coming in with 250 to 200 units. I was speaking with the superintendent of the schools today, and I said, how will we handle this from an elementary school perspective? And he said, we would have to hire someone right now to look at that, like yesterday, a demographer, and look at how we could accommodate that, because the elementary schools are nearly at capacity. Unfortunately, as the gentleman here both said, they're not interested in how it's going to impact our schools. So we will have to make some concessions. That's driven by Trenton, and anybody who doesn't like the rule should go back to Trenton, because that's who made this law that it clearly benefits developers. And when we talk about affordable housing, the reality is that it's 80% market rate, and that's why that's the truth.
So, Delia, we're trying to get to a yes or no on this question. Do you believe Tatlock Field should be lit?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, here's what I will say, and I sit on the planning board. I take it very seriously that those residents near there are concerned about traffic, noise, light pollution, and we will do the right thing. We will come up with a light usage study. I'm pushing our directors to get that done. In fact, I'm always asking Kevin to let's get that before the planning board, but the residents have spoken. The residents, the children don't have enough field space. We have to do this, and we just have to do it in a way that's cognizant of those neighbors. And we've made significant improvements in that neighborhood with traffic, and I think that we've making a lot of progress.
Yes, I think the field should be lit. I know that Delia's opponent has said she's against it. I know that mine has sort of said she is, but with a lot of qualifiers on it. I will say loud and proud, yes, I think it should be lit.
I've spent a lot of time with the Tatlock neighborhood. Last year, we spent 5 meetings, and the idea was to get their concerns. This was brought up to council in 2018, so we've had this issue for a very long time, even predating 2018. It was the initial presentation, and we wanted to really understand what the concerns were. Is it just the lights? But it wasn't. It was traffic, it was safety, it was crosswalks and sidewalks and parking. And I totally understand where they're coming from, and we want to be able to address those. My opponent during the debate said that he was for lights, however, need to meet all of the residents' concerns first. My comment back was, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and that's what we're going to do. We can address the same issues as well as address the lighting issue. And we had a tremendous group of people that were, we have we are very fortunate in Summit to have very charitable people, and they raised $500,000 through the Summit Foundation and made the donation or the grant to the City Council at the last council meeting.
Great.
Okay. Tom, pedestrian safety has been a perennial problem in Summit. What would you do to improve pedestrian safety?
I think we just have to take a really close look at it. It feels like that's a very, case by case basis depending on where you are in town. I think down in the Broad Ashwood area, I think that we could look at maybe adding some left turn signals, which I think would reduce traffic a little bit and, consequently make pedestrian safety, a bit more airtight in that area. I just think I think reducing traffic in general would be good for pedestrian safety. So I think we need to take a look at traffic, ways to reduce that. And, I think that's the number one thing. I think if there's fewer cars jammed up at intersections, I think that would go a long way on that issue.
Can I just add one thing real quick? We've made significant improvements down at Canoe Parkway, putting the speed signs there. The residents have seen a huge increase in just even motor vehicle stops for speeding. I think that enforcement and education is the key on that. I would say we also have to push the county. A lot of these rapid flashing beacons are just taking a really long time. We have a lot of county roads, so we have to continue to work with the county, continue to advocate for Summit, and we just got another crosswalk down at Butler as well. So we've really tried to prioritize and push the county and the town to get those.
Great. Kevin. Maplewood and South Orange have experienced ICE, Immigration and Customer Enforcement, raids in the past several weeks. As a member of council, what would your response be if this were to happen in Summit?
Well, first, I'm not quite sure I'd be the first call. Most likely, if they came into Summit, the first call would probably be to the chief of police and the mayor. I'm not sure how much input I would have. However, I would encourage our mayor and our chief of police to make sure that, if that were the case, that our residents and citizens are treated with compassion and discretion as well.
Okay. This one's for Delia. What are your thoughts on redevelopment in the area of our downtown where the old firehouse is located?
Sure. So, as many of you know, we passed an overlay zone, which is now actually zoning for that area. We decided to get out of the redevelopment business during Broad Street West. So now that when that property is sold, the developer will decide what will be there. The overlay zone and the new zoning does provide some structure. So it will more likely be two buildings, one commercial and one residential, or two residential buildings. There is affordable housing in there. There's green space. The residents were very clear during Broad Street West on what they didn't want. So when we worked on that overlay zone, we really took that into consideration. And I think that it's taken a year or so, and it's a really good product. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get it back on the cities for a rateable as well.
Tom, what do you feel the most underserved constituency is in Summit?
Underserved. I think our council and our mayor have done a good job serving our city across the board. I think we need to, and I hope this answers your question, I think we need to be really attentive to the neighborhood in the Broad Ashwood area because as I've talked to neighbors, I know sometimes that side of town feels that maybe they're not being heard. I want to make sure they are heard. I know some of them have concerns about, projects that could be built. And they need to hear the solutions and the plan that we as, council will have. And, communication is the key with them. So I think we need to make sure that they know that we're hearing their concerns and addressing them.
If I could add to that, I think our housing authority residents are one of the most underserved. There is an opportunity, in fact, it's opening up in the beginning of October for the affordable housing money, and they should take advantage of that. I've been very articulate and very clear that they need to come up with a long-term plan because the way these residents are living now is unsustainable. I've had several meetings with the residents, and we need a leader who is going to take some action and get these units fixed and people in proper housing.
Great. Kevin, please provide your vision for Summit and how you would work to achieve it. Be sure to include your priorities on how best to serve our community.
What's the what's the old TV show with I forgot his name, the young kid back in the 50s and 60s.
Leave it to Beaver? I don't
Leave It to Beaver, you know.
That was pretty good.
Yeah,
Is that what you were thinking?
yes,
I like how you got
exactly.
right through that.
I was long away from
Yeah.
that.
You know, progress always happens, right? So things change. Our downtown changes. What I would like to envision is to keep our downtown preserve our downtown, I should say, as much as possible. One of the things that I really like about our downtown is that the tallest building is 5 stories tall, and that's the Bassett Building. So most people don't even know that, because if you're driving downtown Springfield Avenue, you just see a bunch of beautiful shops, and it's very walkable. We have a great community. We have a strong community in terms of charitable giving. We have a strong community in terms of our academics, strong community in terms of our sports. And you know, we have very successful sports teams in high school because of our youth programs. And there's a group of women who started here in Summit and from the Franklin district called Wait Until 8th. And I'm trying to put my full support behind that. And what it really is to try to keep our kids off of screens, as well as their social media on their phones. And that's something that I think the Department of Education did a really good job this year, and they instituted, based on various grade levels, restrictions on phone use. So it's a great step, and if we could just get our kids out playing, and that's one of the reasons why I think lights are so important for Tatlock, because if we can extend the daylight for those children to get outside and playing instead of on their screens at home playing games, I think it'd be healthier for everyone.
Can I just add something? I'll be quick about it. But I think part of the reason that the Together for Summit team has had some success over the last several years is because the vision is pretty much in line with a lot of what the city wants, which is responsible development, a feeling of safety and actual safety, and a place that's affordable for new families to come in and add to our community. So I think that's the vision.
So, Delia, what's the difference between a Republican and a Democrat at the local level?
Absolutely nothing, like I told you 3 years ago. It's funny. I never know whose door I'm knocking on because I just go down the street. And the things that residents call me about every day are my house is either flooding or where's the flashing beacon not working. Jordan, Frank, you know the questions that you get. And when you're in office, as I've been for the last 3 years, it doesn't matter at all. Take Canoe Brook Parkway, for example, Canoe Brook Parkway sidewalks. If I went down the list and said how many Republicans were mad at me because I put the sidewalks in, I had plenty. I had plenty of not nice emails from Republicans. And that just shows that we did the right thing. We put sidewalks in. Doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. It was the right thing to do for that street. And I think we've made some really great improvement this year, and it's just not important at the local level.
I just, if I can add, I just want to share, I've shared with some residents this year that my hometown where I grew up is about 20 miles north of here in Clifton in Passaic County. And I've shared that they have a nonpartisan council there. So, you run without the D or the R next to your name. And while I acknowledge that we're running on a partisan ticket, that structure is kind of what guides me and how I would be as a councilman. I don't think I want to approach issues with a party label. I want to approach it in a way that's improving quality of life and approach it with a problem-solving attitude. And, I guess that's all sort of a long way of saying that I don't think there should be much of a difference between Democrats and Republicans at the local level.
Agreed.
I would just echo what Delia and Tom just said. I don't identify myself as a Republican. I am a registered Republican. I have voted Republican, Democrat, Independent from the national level to the local level. So I vote for the person, not for the party. And especially at the local level, we're all volunteers. We're neighbors. We're only trying to, in our own way, try and make the town a little bit better than we leave it a little bit better than when we came.
Okay.
And I would just add, I think it's a detriment to the staff. These elections are very tough for the staff, and it can get uncivil at times. And so I think maybe nonpartisan would be the way to go at some point, because I think that it's a huge distraction to what's really getting done at the municipal level.
Okay. So we're down to the last two questions. This one's for Tom. Assuming you're elected, how would you like to be remembered once your term of office has ended?
I want to be remembered as someone who always put constituents first, who approached council in a nonpartisan way. And like I guess to use the phrase Kevin did, I want people to believe that my impact was leaving Summit better than I found it. And it's already pretty great. But, I like to think that I really believe in public service. And while we're all here, I don't mean in Summit, I mean like on this earth, you want to do things to make your community better. And I would want to be remembered as someone who did that.
Last one.
So, Kevin, is there anything else you'd like voters to know about you? I think you should all answer that. We have a few minutes just quickly that we haven't covered.
Okay. First and foremost, I want people to know me as Kevin Smallwood. I ran for specific reasons in 2023 because I wanted to help stop the overdevelopment and have more responsible development. I didn't like the way the direction was going in terms of the amount of car thefts and home break-ins, and I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to help find a solution, and I think we have done that. And being on council, having to work with the affordable housing plan in round 3 and now going on to round 4, I'm really proud of the work that we've done. So, what I would really want people to walk away with is, I'm a council member, but I'm a dad, I'm a small business owner, I'm a volunteer, and I love this town.
I think I would want people to know that, I'm coming into this with, everyone's best interest in mind. Like I said, kind of alluded to it already, but I'll always be eyes and ears open. If someone has an idea or, has a criticism, we always want to hear what people are saying. I want to act with transparency. I want to be someone who people view as a caring human being. If I can do all those things, I think all the tactical stuff comes after that. I think your constituents need to see you as a person who cares, and that's what I want people to know, is that I care.
Julia.
I think it's just important for residents to know that we do work really, really hard, and we work with the city staff a lot. We're constantly thinking about new ways to, make the city better. This year, we've added a pop-up dog park. And I also say I'd ask residents to ask themselves if they feel safer, and the overwhelming majority says absolutely yes, they feel safer. And I hope that they know that we work really hard to make them safer.
Okay. Well, thank you for participating. Thank you for your thoughtful answers, and carry on.
Good luck.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having us.